expand.
So you've always put your money where your mouth is, and you work with all these pro athletes. What do you do? What are the things you do? What are the supplements you take? What is it you do? How do you eat? Oh, are we recording? Dr. Andy Galpin, a man who lives the science, a man who stays in shape, does some MMA, competitive power lifter, very symmetrical face.
Thank you.
And the man who cured my psoriasis, because I called you, I said, I have psoriasis. And I don't know what to do because dermatologists don't know what to do. And you go, I got this guy, Dan Garner. I'm like, no, I want you. He goes, trust me, this guy knows his stuff. And the rest is history. And it never came back. And both of you guys surmised it was a gut issue. We did an elimination diet. We do a probiotic protocol. And it never came back. And when we did my labs, the bacteria in my gut that can be correlated to autoimmune diseases was gone. And then you guys reached out to me, and we did a rapid health thing, which is your company where you basically look under the hood, and I came back immortal, and that's what's really exciting. Yeah.
And that's that's been years. Like that psoriasis has been completely gone for not a few months, but
5 years,
5+ years. Yeah. Look, there's real power in physiology. And actually, I think the full story was we had tried some things because we had gone through some of the, all right, is it overall stress? Yeah. Is it just maybe some
you looked at my cortisol levels and everything,
Yeah, because it was sort of like, hey, look, are there first lines of defenses here that are what we generally call visible stressors? So these are things that are putting stress on your body. Autoimmune, of course, this is the realm we're talking about when we're thinking, AI stuff, autoimmune.
Yeah.
And like, we want to make sure it's not like before we go wild and start going into advanced testing and we get worried about some mold in our house or some like let's just start with the thing that's probably 90% most likely. And we ran through that checklist with you and nothing kind of came out.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, hey, I actually think you have something real happening here, which is not typically the case. Most of the time when people are...
It's stress.
It's stress or it is just really dysfunctional. Again, I'll globally call these visible stressors. So this could be just really inconsistent and bad nutrition, excess alcohol, being around like environment, like things that you're just like, these are bad. And yet you're just like closing your eyes, hoping this isn't causing it.
Right.
But yours checked out. Your lifestyle was good. You were, I think you were getting ready to film one of your specials.
Yeah.
And so there's like, okay, maybe like this.
Well, I was also doing a TV show where I was in shorts and they would have to cover my legs with makeup.
Yeah.
For like an hour.
That's right.
And it was like, I can't do this.
Yep. So in your particular case, it was like, you know what, we need to actually go to the next level here. And then I knew the guy to call on that one. That's Dan's specialty. And he drooled all over the place when he saw the labs. He's like, oh, this is going to go well. And he crushed it. And you're like, do I have to do all these things in this order?
But
and
I
he's
did
like, Dan's style is just like, yo, you do this exactly as it's written. It's like, oh, you have questions? No, like there's no questions. Right. Like you do this exactly like I said, and your problems will go away.
That's
and
right.
Like,
yeah.
All right.
I was like, okay, sensei. Yes, sensei. And he was right.
And he nailed it.
Yeah. He's a maniac.
Yeah.
But you're kind of the same way. Can you describe exactly what you do and where your lab is and what your area of expertise is?
Yeah. So my full-time job is I'm actually a professor and a scientist. So I've got a PhD in what's called human bioenergetics. This is muscle metabolism and physiology and performance. And so my real job is I run the Center for Sport Performance at Cal State Fullerton. And so that is a series of laboratories that the mission there is to produce and disseminate research that enhances human performance. And so we really try to look at that as holistically as possible. I use what I always like to refer to as like the muscle to gene and everything in between, which is to say we've done studies where we take muscle biopsies from people and we look at epigenetic and genetic markers of performance to see why people are growing muscle faster or slower than others, all the way to the other end of the spectrum, which is how does yoga work on stress management and breath work and icing your neck in between rounds of an MMA fight? Does that actually work? Wow. And so we try to do stuff like really all over the board. If I think it has the potential, big or small, to enhance human performance, we're gonna look at it in our lab. But then, like, that's not enough for me. So what I actually have spent, and Dan as well, my career on is actually directly working with the world's highest performers, yourself clearly included there.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
but
dude.
we've worked.
Oh God, Dylan just went. Yeah, dude, high performer. Go on.
In many areas of life.
Many areas, especially bed. High testosterone.
Your testosterone is what about 900? You're saying?
Yeah, I think it was 927.
Yeah, the protocols work, man. I'm taking 100. I'll take 97% credit for your testosterone level.
You will?
I will take 97%.
What do you mean?
I'm pretty sure what we did fixed everything, and it doesn't matter if the truth is involved in any of this right now.
I do think my testosterone's always been really high.
Yeah, it has. Like we've done your labs.
What is that though? What is that about? When you study guys but obviously it doesn't translate to me being insanely explosive, insanely muscular. It just means I have high testosterone. So what is that?
Yeah, that's physiology is complicated. I've worked with men and women that are world champions in about every sport. MVPs, Hall of Famers, Cy Young players. We coach the highest contract in probably 4 or 5 of the big American sports.
Wow.
At this point.
Wow.
Masters winners, all pros,
So you're around the best of the best.
And why I'm saying that is to say, we've coached 18-year-olds and I've coached 41-year-olds, right? People that are all over the board in terms of just our athletes.
Right.
We've certainly coached a ton more of executive clients and CEOs, actors, musicians, superheroes, like the ones on the movies, things like that, literally. And so I bring that up just to say, if you were to look at something like testosterone, clearly it's somewhat relevant to how you feel and perform.
Right.
But it only explains a portion of the variance. What I mean by that is just because you're at 800, I don't actually know much about how you're going to respond to exercise. Clearly, you're not Brian Shaw.
Yeah.
Right? You're way more fit than the average
57-year-old.
7-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow. You don't even look that.
Thank you, dude. My face.
No, but
let me
really
look at my
right?
producer. See how tight my face is, dude? You're welcome. Keep going.
You do many of the things correct lifestyle-wise, way better than most people in your career and profession. Right. But still, you're not massive. And people would think, oh my God, if this dude's at 900 without testosterone therapy, without hormones, right? This is all just you normally. And it's been like that for a while.
That's why I don't want to take any. I don't want to mess with it.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
There's really no reason to do that. Okay. In the inverse, I've seen high profile professional athletes that are 22 years old feel great and their testosterone's 600 or 400. So it is clearly related. Where the big distinction here is, I think 2 things you can flag. One is when you are clinically deficient. And then the other one would be maybe subclinical, but important. That's when testosterone matters. But once you're past that list, it's not really going to do much.
There are just other factors.
There's just too many other factors. There always are. So it explains some portion of how you look, feel, and perform, but it's not the only thing to consider. In fact, it's not even that important for the most part.
Right.
It's kind of there, but it's not
I would imagine it matters on how much you're doing. If you're a special forces guy and you're always working out and you're exhausted, and your testosterone is going to be lower.
No doubt.
Or, you know what I mean? So much of it is if you're just a civilian like me and you stay in kind of good shape and you eat well and you get a lot of sleep, you're probably going to be at optimal levels. I mean, depending genetically, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors going into it. There's actually a biological variance that happens. So this is one thing to pay attention to. If you ever get your blood done, and you get it done 90 days later, there is a normal amount of variance that happens. Call it probably at least 50, 75, maybe up to 100.
Yeah.
Where it didn't go up, it didn't go down. That's just actually the normal variance. So if you had it checked one time, it was 450, and the next time it's 500, it probably, whatever you're doing probably didn't do anything.
Yeah.
That to me is what we still call statistical error.
Right.
It's the error of the measurement, or in this case, it's technically the error of the biology. Same thing if it goes down. If it was man, I'm 450, and now I started doing this thing, and now I'm at 430, that number should be treated as basically identical. That is the same thing. You can actually calculate this. There's a variance, it's about 2 to 3% just within the lab. But then the biological variance is 5+%, which is kind of those numbers I just ran you through, right? So if you are, wow, my testosterone went up 10%. Okay, I'm interested, but I'm not fully convinced that actually is real.
Right.
If you were to get a third one and it stayed there, and a fourth one and it stayed there, then it's okay. Yeah. Or if it continued to go up. So that's one big thing to pay attention to with something like testosterone is it has to be clinically meaningful. And in our case, actually, it has to be physiologically meaningful, which are pedantic sort of differences there.
Right.
Really, it's the difference between some things matter in medicine, and then we don't have to get that much of a difference to matter for performance.
Right.
And that's
Right.
like kind of how we'll split
Right.
those up. But those numbers would be like, I would look at that in your labs and go, all right, it's the same number it was last time.
Yeah.
There's no difference there.
Yeah. And is there, if you could prescribe a food, an exercise, or something to the general population,
Yeah.
what would it be? Or would it be more, I'd
For
love to-
testosterone elevation.
I just think for overall health and performance,
Yeah.
Okay.
So peel this all the way back.
Let me make it easier for you, because aside from the fact that, we could say calorie restriction, Americans probably eat too much. Americans don't sleep enough.
Well,
Americans maybe don't get.
We're not the only fat ones.
Yeah, you're right. Humans don't get enough sunshine, exercise, sleep. We understand. Like, get your sleep, get your food, get enough to eat, get your exercise, and But aside from that, is there something that did you see something coming down the pipe that we're all going to be doing eventually, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Like, if you want to start talking about kind of what's happening on the forefront of human performance or the future of it,
I do.
Oh boy, we can turn this conversation differently.
I really?
Yeah,
I do. I want to know when I'm going to get
no
hair.
No one asks me about this stuff. They always ask me about that other stuff. But like, if you want to get here,
Yeah, because that's the dark ages.
Yeah,
it really is. Like what we're doing right now is it's all good. It's it's but it is what it is. I'm interested in
all right.
When am I going to get the kind of hair I want, the muscles I want? When am I going to, I want that. I want my body to be out of the way. So if I say to you, Andy, I'm 57, I'm 60, I want to go get my black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, go do it. And I'll see you at 65 when you're crushing.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're listening to this, you can probably still see me smiling ear to ear. Like with this question, this is the thing that gets me most fired up.
Yeah.
We actually, I'll go backwards. I'll go big to small.
Yeah.
There's actually a project that we're in data collection on right now. Actually, it ends Monday. So we'll be done with our first cohort. It's a pilot study that we're doing, and it's called the Human Digital Twin. And so imagine if we could run the full gamut of your entire biology. And by that, what I mean is, let's go from genotype to phenotype.
What does that mean?
Genes, so your genome are all the things that are inherited from your mom and dad, right? So within your genome, you have about 19,500 genes, right? So your genome is this big long string of DNA. Within that, you got about 19,500 genes. Within those genes, now those code for particularly mRNA, we'll call it protein. So they make a protein in your body. So all of your genes that you inherit, your full genome is your genome. Okay, that is unchangeable unless we actually now get into things
Gene
like
editing.
Gene editing. Yeah.
CRISPR-Cas9, weird stuff.
For sure, which has clearly happened, right? 2019, we had our first reported case of somebody actually...
China?
Yeah.
Yeah.
HIV kids, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They cured HIV that way, didn't they?
I think it stopped the kids from getting HIV.
Wow.
Was the issue. There's more to that story that we could talk about off sort of.
Well, there is a gene variant. One of the reasons that straight men, or one of the reasons AIDS was so prevalent in Africa and not in European men, especially straight men who weren't using drugs or actually having anal sex, was that if you survive the Black Plague, you have the people that survived the Black Plague had a gene variation that protected them from the bubonic plague. That same gene variation makes it almost impossible to get HIV unless it's pushed in your body, in your bloodstream. Did you know that?
I don't know any of those data. I don't spend any time on like all diseases, so I'll just trust you that is fully accurate.
I'm a geneticist. Keep going. All right, so phenotype. I'm sorry.
No, that's actually good because that's very relevant to where we can go here. Because remember, your genes, we all share the same genes, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, so the genome is 99% the same between all of us, but there's actually new data suggesting there's things called copy number variants that gives us a little bit of a wobble. And so let me wind the story back a little bit. 1995, I think, 1982, they started the Human Genome Project. And that was all based on what's called Mendelian genetics, which is 1-to-1. There's one gene that makes one protein. And they thought there was 100,000 or so genes in our body. And there was tremendous excitement here because it was like, holy shit, there's only 100,000 genes. And we then map all these out. We know exactly what's happening in your entire body. And there was like magic there because there was true belief that that was going to happen. And there was good reason to believe that because prior to that, right around like 1997 to 2001 range, you had these series of studies that came out from University of Pennsylvania, Johns Hopkins, Salk Institute, where you had the transgenic Schwarzenegger mice, the myostatin knockout mice,
yes,
the marathon mice, right? You've all seen these things, right?
The myostatin cows.
The myostatin cows,
Yeah.
the bull weevils, right? 2004 New England Journal of Medicine, first documented paper on myostatin knockout in a human, right? So a kid is born, his quad, you can see the pictures in the paper. His quads are jacked, his calves are jacked, and he's twitching. His muscles are kind of twitching. And like, what's going on? They actually ran and found like he is a genetic rare mutation where he doesn't, to back up, there's a gene called MSTN, and this codes for a protein called myostatin. Myostatin is a negative inhibitor of muscle growth. So it is the gas brake, right? It throttles you down.
I have a lot of that.
Yeah, clearly, right? Way too much, actually.
Hey, dude, come on, be cool. Be cool. Keep going with your analysis. What the fuck, Andy?
So myostatin is a good thing, right? We don't want unchecked cellular growth.
Right.
Like we have a term for that.
Yeah. Cancer.
Right.
Right.
Tumors. Not a good thing.
Yeah,
right?
not a good thing.
So there's a reason there. What happens in these particular people, they still have the myostatin MSTN gene, but they have a very particular, I think in this case, don't quote me on this, but I think it's a single base pair rare mutation. So rare mutation is one of these variations that happens in less than 1% of the population. If it happens in more than 1% of the population, we don't call it a mutation. We call it a polymorphism.
Right.
So if you've ever heard of things like, if you've gotten or thought about genetic testing and you've seen like single base pair polymorphisms or polymorphisms, single base pair means one of those base pairs is off. If there are more than one, it's just called a polymorphism. If that happens in more than 1% of the population, then we call it a polymorphism. But the ones that are really, really uncommon, we call them mutations.
Okay.
So that's the distinction between mutation. It's really not anything different.
Right.
It's just how common it is.
Right.
So in the case of myostatin, it's considered to be a rare mutation because it's very, very uncommon. In fact, there was another case in 2009, Michigan kid, I think, that they thought had a similar one, but I don't know if that was actually verified. I think to date, that's still the only guy that is the only kid that's been known to be actually like a legitimate myostatin deficiency.
Right.
Now there's shit tons of like supplements and stuff that are like lower your
Myostatin?
myostatin.
Really?
I don't think they work
Okay.
at all.
Yeah, but how do these kids turn out as adults?
All the last updates they did scientific, because they tracked the kid for a handful of years. I think he was like 3 years old or 4 years old and already doing front raises and holding him with like 3 kilos. Which is like your son's like right around that age. Like,
Well, Brian Shaw said his 6-year-old is like him, and his 6-year-old lifted 100 pounds off the ground.
Yeah.
So
I
Brian's
believe every word
kids are
of that
freaks.
story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the point is, the kid I think is normal. I don't think there's anything there. But the functional difference is that actually happened at the genome level. It wasn't done. So like going back to the HIV kids, there seems to be decent evidence that this can happen in animal models if you do it in the embryo, gene editing. If you try to edit genes in a human, though, you're running into a possible cytokine storm, inflammatory issues.
Yeah.
Now, there's been over probably 1,000 studies that have used gene therapy. And let me clarify terminology there. Gene editing is changing that genome.
Okay.
Gene therapy is just using a drug to turn your genes on or off.
Okay.
That's the kind of distinction, right?
Okay.
That's been around for 30 plus years.
Really?
It's been around for forever.
Okay.
The liver is probably the most common place to go after for that, but it's probably typically $1 million, $1.5 million to do gene therapy. And it's almost always for like real legitimate diseases.
Yeah.
Where like, hey, the person's probably going to die or like something bad's gonna
And
happen.
they've had a lot of success in this.
Tons of success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gene therapy.
So gene therapy is one thing.
Good for cancers and things.
Totally. Now, the question on my side has always been, what if somebody used gene therapy for doping for sports? So terminology-wise, if an athlete or someone's trying to use this to enhance performance, gene therapy is now, instead of called therapy, it's called doping. Editing is when you would go in and actually
change the gene.
But that's hard because that technology has only been around for a decade now. Gene therapy, again, 30 sort of plus years. So going back to our myostatin example, that kid apparently was normal, but that's really, really, really rare and uncommon. Most of the time, as we go from your genome to your phenotype, it gets exponentially more complicated. In that example, you have a case of one base pair switch, one direct phenotype change. It's extremely uncommon. Most of the time, something like testosterone, I think as of last week, totally funny because I just looked at this, there were 855 known gene variants, that go into determining your testosterone.
855 gene variances.
855.
Yeah.
So if you're getting a test and you're looking at like 3 or 4 or 12 markers, like you're not even 10% of the way there. Now, that's just the genome, right? We know that your overall testosterone, I don't actually know the number here, but the hereditability is, most things it's like 50-50.
Yeah.
Meaning, okay, your testosterone is 900. All right, and you ask me, why is it there? Well, let's just say 50% is because you sleep well, you train, positive associations with people, connections, blah, 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 all that boring stuff. That's probably 50%. That's also the most actionable. That's why guys like me, like when you ask me that, like I want to talk more about your sleep. I want to talk more because that has
huge,
the biggest impact on it.
Right.
But let's throw that away for now. Let's say the gene does 50%. And again, I actually don't know. I know this number on a lot of variables. I don't know this in testosterone, but it's going to be close. 50-50. Of that 50%, how many of those 855 gene variants explain that 50%? That's the key, right? So, because one could say, what if I just measured all 855?
Yeah.
Would that then tell me everything about the genetic component there? And the answer is no.
No.
It only gives you a very small percent of the total variance. We don't actually know the remaining part because we haven't fully finished understanding the genome.
Right.
We haven't even gotten from gene to protein, which is called your proteome, right? You got 19,500 genes. Those can code for a total proteome. So remember, genes are just the potential until they actually get made into a protein.
Until they get turned on, essentially.
Turned on or off.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean shit. The amount of protein you can make.
This is interesting, too, because you wonder, you may have this idea, I don't have the math gene, I don't have the the music gene.
Horseshit.
Listen, if you are playing the piano from the age of 3 and you're around music all the time, you're going to turn those genes on.
Oh, I can give you numbers.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I can go give you examples of like exact numbers if you want here.
Yeah.
Now, and then I'll do something here that it's going to like, I apologize for swearing on your program.
Please swear. Please fucking swear.
You're going to lose your shit.
Okay.
Now I'm intentionally telling you, so I'm going to hold something back here.
Yeah.
But you're going to get so fucking pissed about this.
Good.
Okay. And like you of all people, you're going to lose your mind on this one. Let me draw this out though. Okay. I'll make this long. All right. Now, if we look at something like how tall you are.
Yeah.
Most of the hereditability data says your physical height is somewhere between 70 to 95% genes. Okay. The other, let's just pick 90. So we have a number to work with. 90% of it is your genetics. 10% is typically nutrition. There are other factors like environmental toxins and stuff like that, but mostly you're going to look what your parents are, unless you have a different thing, right? That it's going to be your genes. All right. So let's say of the 90%. I gave testosterone an example, but how many gene variants explain that 90%? As of right now, there are over 12,000 gene variants that go into that 90%. But those 12,000 only explain, I'll make math easier here. This is not correct, but I'll make it easier. Those 12,000 only explain 50% of that 90%, which means in order for us to understand the remaining 40%, we need to probably double that 12,000 number, plus or minus. So most people in the genetic sport performance, this is called sport genomics, by the way, this entire field of like, understand the genes. Think it's going to end up being something like 25,000 total genes that go into determining just the genetic component of your height. And I picked height because that one has very little that you can
do about it.
If we do things like your strength, your VO2 max, your body composition, blood glucose, homocysteine, this is a common one that everybody fucks up.
Why homocysteine?
Oh, MTHFR,
you're not supposed to drink
MTHFR,
coffee and
it's this one. Like I'm gonna, like, oh my god, that is so abused. We can run through exact numbers on that. Like it determines such a little percent of what's happening in your real life.
Homocysteine.
Like no, that's important.
Right.
It's the gene that doesn't matter that much.
Okay.
Because you have, again, in this example, it took 5.5 million people in a database to learn those 12,500 variants. They're going to need about 100 million people to get the remaining 12,500. It takes a shit ton of data. And here is the reason why. There's a project, there's many first world countries have these advanced genomic projects that we've been working on for decades, right? The UK Biobank started in like 2015, I think. 500,000 people. There's the 1,000 Genome Project here. There's the All of Us program. There's all kinds of other ones over Human Genome Project. The All of Us program started a handful of years ago, and they wanted to put 1 million people in this database. I think they've done 750,000 at this point. February 24th.
Yeah.
They released, so this is a week ago, right? Plus or minus. They released their first sort of round of next round of data on that. The current thought was there's around 300 million total gene variants in the human population. They added an additional 275 million to that list.
Yeah. So genes are all over the place.
500 million
different variants.
Different variants, right? That's the type of stuff we're learning like on the daily. And all we have done so far is talk about just the gene and their very common alleles. We haven't talked about the non-coding sections, the epigenetic functions, and like all the other
So we're
things
scratching the surface
Not even
of
scratching
genetics.
the surface. We're not even scratching the surface of the surface of the surface.
What you're saying is that we are a long way away
Okay.
from anything.
Yes and no, though.
Okay.
Because then there are cases that are real simple, like myostatin. That's one base pair different. And that has a huge phenotypical thing. So people are on like the hunt to find
the myostatin.
the myostatin.
To find why is cloning? Why is that the same reason why cloning hair, for example, has been
so hard?
It's hard.
So hard.
Because of the reason you're talking about with these massive variations, meaning manipulating those variations, CRISPR-Cas9.
Yeah. It's really, really challenging because we don't even, again, I keep saying 19,500 genes. We don't even know what that number is. And we actually now think that number differs because these copy number variants. So basically think about it like this. Some of your genes, this is not exactly correct, but for the sake of communication, I'll say it this way. Some of your genes are accidentally copied multiple times. And so it's like you actually may have extra. You have less. And there's this, in fact, there's like thousands of these that are known variants that go on. We also don't have a very super clear definition of when genes start and stop. The analogy I'll give you is we're out here in LA right now.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Right now we can say, all right, that part of the country is LA. That part of the country is San Diego, that's San Francisco, etc. Yeah. And at a high level, that's like pretty good. But the reality of it is like we're not in LA at all. Like we're in Santa Monica. We're in Venice. Like those aren't the same cities.
Right.
Like, so if you go to the next level, it's like, well, where did Santa Monica start and when did Venice stop? That crosswalk.
Yeah.
But like actually people argue, like, no, it's not that one. It's like the government has,
yeah.
But like the reality of it is there's no actual real world
right.
line there. There's like some sort of arbitrary line, but some person set that line.
This is, so gene editing is not going to be something we are going to benefit from necessarily.
We will.
We will.
No question.
So you are optimistic because it sounds like you're dealing with 500 million genes in different variations.
But I told you this is kind of why it gets fun.
Okay.
Because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
No question.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like
when.
Yeah. And the
but
idea,
you think 10 years, 20 years? We don't know. With AI, there seems to be an exponential.
So okay, here like everyone jumps on AI, and that's great. Like we'll sort of talk about plenty of stuff we can do with AI right now that does help. But AI is only as good as the power you put into it. Mm. And when we don't know the data, we don't know what to feed it.
So you need data.
So here's the problem.
Yeah.
Remember that tease I told you earlier?
Yeah.
That 275 million new variants?
Yeah.
Also in that exact same paper, and we've known this for a while, over 90% of genetic databases are based on Caucasian genetic backgrounds.
Yeah. Western males, you know. Yeah.
It's not even Western.
Yeah.
Because most of this data came out of Russia, Turkey, the UK Biobank, Germany, like all these ethnic Caucasians, right? Which
that's just Caucasians.
It's just Caucasians.
We haven't even got to Africa.
But here's where it gets really nasty. There have been multiple studies that have gone and looked at, see these genetic markers, and they take it in, say, Caucasian British folks, and then they replicate it in Caucasian Germans, and it doesn't work. So it doesn't even work within the same subset of Caucasians, right? So take proteins.
So it sounds to me like you shouldn't be wasting your time on genetics.
Again, I'm going to turn the story around.
All right.
Okay?
Because you're depressing me.
Yeah. But like this is why it's fun, right? Because to me, this is opportunity.
Okay.
Like we think we're at the end of the rope with human performance.
Right.
And we think it's like, well, you started this conversation, you said like get past the sleep, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay. We have like we scratch the surface on top of the surface on top of the surface on top of the surface here. There's clearly then things we don't know, which means we have huge opportunity to learn things. And everyone is after this precision medicine, precision nutrition, precision training type of stuff, right? But then we have clear, complete gaps to total nascence in our understanding of basic things like even your genetic inheritance, right? If you take a look at some of the more common genetic markers, performance-wise, like ACTN3 is a very common marker. This codes for a protein called alpha-actinin 3, which you need to have for fast-twitch muscle fibers. One of the first documented genetic markers in like elite athletes, okay? There are plenty of other ones. I mentioned the homocysteine one, which drives me
when I did my
totally
23andMe, I was shocked because I came back with that, they said you're more fast-twitch muscle, but you're like, you work with pro athletes, so you were like... Nah.
There's no way, right? Because remember, you're just looking at what's called the phenotype of that gene. So which allele did you have? Did you have, in your case, alpha, did you have X or R?
Who knows?
Right? If you had R, they're going to tell you more fast twitch. If you had X, they're going to tell you
slow twitch. Yeah, so I think I had more fast twitch.
But that shit only works because you're, what's your actual ethnic background?
I'm 51% Southern Italian and the rest is Northern Europe.
Okay,
Irish Italian.
I knew the Italian part.
Some Iberian.
Great. So none of those markers have been validated in Italian.
None of them.
Not that I know of.
What do you mean?
So ACTN3, the ability to predict how many fast twitch fibers you have, has not been validated in Italian ethnic background.
It has not. What about in Irish and North?
You might have some chance in the Irish community because if they're in the UK Biobank, you had a shot there. Yeah. But as I just said, like you take that exact same marker and you fold it over to another community. You take that same marker and you put it in people from Southeast Asia, compare that to Japanese, and it changes.
I love it.
Go to Africa.
Yeah.
Look at the difference between West Africa and East Africa, right?
Huge
so you're looking
difference.
at Kenyans who are like often...
And Nigerians are,
Exactly.
I mean, you got the most explosive athletes on the planet in Cameroon and Nigeria and, in Ghana. And then you go over to, Kenya, and they literally look totally different. They can run forever maybe in certain areas. Yep. Other areas, no. Like, you know what I mean?
So you take something like the ACE gene or ACTN3, and you're going to see that they predict, hey, 1 to 2% of the actual resulting protein in a Caucasian. And then you go to those populations and you see that those variants just don't exist, period.
Really?
They're 0% of the population. They're not there. They have the ACTN-G, or the ACTN3, rather, but you're not going to see the XX genotype at all. It's functionally at a population level 0%.
So what does that mean?
So what role does that gene actually play in determining who's fast or slow in the Nigerian population? Yeah. It's 0. It tells you nothing. It tells you a ton if you're...
So why are West African people from the Biafra coast so explosive?
So that's the fun part, right? It's like, okay, well, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's clearly not that.
Yeah.
Right? And the other common markers that we use, MTHFR, again, is another one I keep bringing up because people are like, oh, that tells you about your B vitamin homocysteine level. MTHFR is going to tell you something like 1% of your actual homocysteine in your blood. Like, what are you messing around with? Why don't you just measure your homocysteine level? That will tell you everything. Answer, what's the functional difference? Well, clearly they're getting there in a different way. The thing about things like, again, ACTN3 acting like all these acronyms that if you're listening home, you're probably like, what the fuck? Like, what? How are these acronyms?
Yeah.
The point of it is, in some people, it tells you a decent amount about what's actually happening in their phenotype. So their phenotype is your actual characteristics. That's what you care about. You don't give a crap about your genome. What you care about is how you look, how you feel, how you perform.
Yeah.
And you want to know how to better improve that.
Yes.
And you want to know, like, hey, based on my unique physiology, what is going to work best for me? If you think about that then, and you're going at this genetic level, and we know that, well, if you're in the right population, it'll maybe tell you 2% of why you look that way. But in the wrong population, it actually tells you 0%. What the fuck are you doing?
So in other words, when you get a genetic test to see what works and what doesn't, we're not there yet.
It's a 97% chance that the resulting effect in your actual body doesn't actually exist.
What do you mean?
So if you get, say, flagged for a marker that says you are going to have more fast twitch fibers, there's a 97% chance it has no bearing on your fast twitch fibers. 3% chance it does, but it doesn't.
Because of the infinite variation.
The proteome is what's nuts. You and I are fans of vino, right? We've drinking bottles of wine together.
Yes.
We have, let's call it 20,000 genes. You know how many genes are in Pinot Noir grapes?
No.
30,000.
Wow.
Do you think a Pinot Noir grape is more complicated biology than we are?
No.
Okay, it's not the genome. We know what the difference is? Our proteome. The amount of different proteins we can make out of our 20,000 genes is exponentially higher than the Pinot Noir grape. That's what separates us. Don't waste too much time on the genome. That's not the complicated part. In fact, ours is really small. Yeah. You could pick a blade of grass. You can pick corn. They have in fact, this is actually...
The genome is just the outline.
The genome is the outline.
Yeah.
And not always, but like sometimes less complicated organisms have more extensive genes. We actually have really small number of genes, but that can then magnify into billions of different proteins.
Okay, but you're still not getting... I want the meat, dude. Okay. You give me a genetic test. Let's get to what we're going to do. Right. I want to know when I'm going to be able to run faster, hold my breath longer, because Ray Kurzweil tells me it's around the corner.
Okay. Yeah. If you take genome, I'm not saying throw it out. It's obviously real. And if we want to know 100% of the variants, I want to know exactly why you look the way you look. I don't want to leave 1% off. So let's add the 1%. Genetics. Okay, great. But now I need to put that into a model, a mathematical computer model that can handle this kind of power. And I need to put that in with your proteome, which means I need to do full extensive blood, urine, saliva, stool. We need all that stuff because I want to know what actually is there. I don't care about your MTHFR gene that much, but let's keep it in there for knowledge. What I really care about is what's your homocysteine level, what's your GGT, what's your ALT, what's AST. Like, I want to know all these markers in there. Okay, I'm going to stack that on top of your phenotype. How do you look? How much muscle do you have? Let's scan that. How are you performing? How do you feel? We're going to add on top of your subjective measurements, right? What's your strength look like? What's your body composition? What's your bone mineral density? What's your VO2 max? Like, I want to know how you're actually performing. If I could take all of that, and then I can combine that with the external environment that influences you. So when we think about you, I'm oftentimes thinking about your individual phenotype, genotype, proteome. But then you actually have other living beings that are inside of you. So I need to actually then fold in your gut microbiome. That's actually different, right? Your mitochondria have different DNA, and your oral microbiome. All that gets factored into like what you experience as a human being. You take all of those data, put them into a model. Now we can actually create a digital physiology replicate of you, right? Mm-hmm. So we actually use the project we're doing right now. We've done all that. Yeah. We've actually taken, there's a technology called AxioForce. So it is a sole that goes into your shoe. You put it in your shoe like a normal sole. And it actually can measure in 3D motion exactly what you're doing with your foot at all times. So I get to have, say, 2 weeks of data on what your gait look like when you're walking around. How much force are you putting on your right leg versus your left leg? What's the angle you're putting it in? How are you leaning? Are you swaying? What's happening? Are you shuffling? Your gait's slowing down over the years. They actually have a several $1 million grant right now trying to look at, can you use that as a way to, say, early Parkinson's detection?
Damn.
Because you'll see changes in your gait before you'll perceive neurological changes. Yes. Right? Okay, great. We see things like that. We're turning you into the human sensor is what we're doing, right? We're running you through our super advanced sleep diagnostics at our other company, Absolute Rest, right? So we're looking at environmental factors. We have facial recognition technology to scan your face to see is there any anatomical things going on with your sleep. Like we're doing the whole, we're doing lots of EEG brain scanning stuff on you. Okay, we're doing all that stuff. We're throwing in a Springbok analysis. So Springbok is a company. It's a 20-minute full-body MRI. But we're not scanning for cancer, like things like that, right? We can actually use that and get a full 3-dimensional image of every muscle on your body. I can not just look and say, here's a DEXA scan, here's how much muscle you have. I can literally look and say, your right biceps femoris is 8% larger than your left biceps femoris. And I can look at edema, I can look at scar tissue. All this can be imaged in a 3D model. So now I know how your body, taking Springbok and saying, I know what the muscle size is. I know how you're functioning because I put you through AxioForce. Then we ran a VO2 max test on you. We saw what your aerobic capacity is. We looked at your cardiovascular markers in your blood. We looked at your mRNA. We looked at your protein. Genetics, fold that in there, great, but as we sort of talked, that's not the win here, right? It's the actual thing. Then I asked, how do you feel? You had a breath, and do some testing, like all these things. How are you actually sleeping? I want to know your respiratory rate. How often are you breathing? I can measure those things. That's going to tell us your autonomic nervous system. All of these things get combined, and many, 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 many more. And we run someone through this entire battery of testing. Mm-hmm. We use that, create a digital twin of them, right? So we have that digital twin, and now we can run simulations on that. and I can go, what is the optimal combination? Bryan wants to optimize for muscle growth. He wants to optimize for muscle growth, but he doesn't want to sacrifice more than 15% energy because he has to perform between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Mm-hmm. Great, throw that in the model. Model, come back, tell us when he should wake up, what he should eat, micronutrients, supplementation, how should he train, and then we're actually going to put some sensors on you that's going to monitor you. So every day, these are going to send feedback in, and we're going to auto-adjust the plan based on what's happening in your physiology. So that's all going to be tracked and measured and monitored, and now we can actually have AI really adapting and changing based on your response. That's the future of this field.
That's the future.
That's where it's going to go.
Right. And we do know that there are certain products, there are certain drugs, there are certain things that do affect your body. It could be a statin that lowers your cholesterol. It could be decanabol that produces more muscle. It could be, you know, the question really becomes, I don't think we have time to wait around. We're going to be breaking into these different gene variations. It sounds like a maze I would never want to go down.
Yeah.
But what about the advent of new drugs, these longevity drugs, these performance-enhancing drugs that go beyond steroids, that go beyond that stuff? That's what I'm interested in too.
Yeah. So again,
but you kind of do that. You have to do that with. You have to be careful with that, right?
You have to be really
because you don't know how it's going to affect.
That's the problem.
The proteins in your body that could cause, you know, cytokine storms. And
every time we try these things, bad things happen.
They do, don't they?
Always, right? So like, I mean, look, the reality is we'd be much farther on just basic gene therapy. But the first couple of studies in like 1999, in the early 2000s, the one in particular, there's a kid, Jesse, I'm forgetting his last name, but he died. Like because of it. See,
scientists like you always are the governor. It's like everybody else is talking about, do it in 5 years. And then I talk to you and I get so sobered because it's like, I remember when, it's like anybody who really knows this stuff will just be like, we're involved in it. You know, we're the ones involved in it.
Yeah.
You talk to Lex Friedman about like autonomous cars.
Totally.
He'll tell you it's going to be a long time. Elon Musk will tell you it's coming next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Lex is like, no, I'm the one who designed it. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because when you have to get messy, it's like when you walk in and you say to a guy, I want to redo my kitchen. And I want different things, but I want the cabinets to open this way. Then I want something over here that opens automatically, but I want a TV to come down from the ceiling. He's the one who has to do it all.
Yeah.
He's the one who's got to go, I got to figure out a hydraulic system there that's not going to interfere with it. It'll be 6 months and $100,000. What the fuck? This other guy quoted me. He's lying to you.
Yeah, he's 100%.
Lying to you. You can go ahead. It's going to cost you more than that, by the way. 100%. He told you 20 grand because it's bait and switch. And I feel like there's so much bro science and so much bullshit and so much industry. Yeah. You've got all kinds of people from Gary Brecka. I don't know much about him, but saying that cold immersion melts fat off your body, or you should be drinking hydrogen water. And I see this stuff, and I see that he's selling this stuff, and I go, I don't know, but I'm always going to check in with you before I say I'm going to go, hey, Andy, how come you're not selling hydrogen water? Because if there's real money in this, what's going on?
Well, whether there's real money or not, I can't speak to. That's a different question.
Yeah.
I'm
just saying when people start talking about the science that really works, when they go, this really works.
Yeah, I think I can help maybe in a couple of ways. And this is also the functional difference between when you just find a scientist or you just find a coach.
Yeah.
Right. Where what we've always tried to do with our career is like, again, we're doing stuff in our labs.
But you're a coach.
We're doing it too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I do some stuff because I'm like, no, I've seen that work in the field a bunch.
Yeah.
And there's no data on that.
What give me an example.
I mean, even common stuff like, let's say PEMF.
What is that?
This is like electronic magnetic waves that you can, there's mats and beds and stuff you can lay on. That's been around for a long time, kind of in the circles.
Yeah.
And I know
for
a lot
recovery?
of athletes. Yeah.
Yeah. Bicyclists use it and stuff.
Totally. Oh, everybody uses it now.
Yeah.
It's all over the place, right? For a decade, I was like, nah, there's nothing here. Scientifically, there's nothing here. But people were using it and people were swearing. And that's fine. Like anecdotes are not nothing.
Right.
They're not everything, but they're not nothing.
But if it's pro athletes that have to,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you fast forward 10 years and now there's actually like decent data on it. It's like, oh, okay. As you mentioned, like I tend to be a little bit conservative. I'm not the
Yeah, you just pissed on my parade with your fucking 500 million variations. I'm like,
right?
I'm depressed. I was expecting you. You're all smiley, and you're like, we're 5 years away from it. And now I'm like, we're not 5 years away.
Yeah, but again, I'm gonna bring that story back.
Okay.
Don't worry.
All right. Tease me, man.
I'm not the unless it's been demonstrated in 3 randomized controlled trials, then it's pseudo. Like I'm not that clearly, right? But and all of us have to draw our line, right? Of like, let's just say that. Let's just say a supplement. We've given you a bunch of different supplements over the years. Some of them we've probably given you creatine and fish oil, right?
Yeah, well, I take creatine now. I like that stuff.
Fantastic.
And I take fish oil.
Mountain of evidence on those two. I would stand against any. In fact, I wouldn't do it because it would be so boring. Like, fine. If
But
you don't think creatine
there's efficacy there. There's
efficacy
data.
is off the charts.
Efficacy.
All right. And then there are some where you're like,
magnesium, multivitamin.
well, I'm going the other end of the spectrum.
Okay.
Like hydrogen water, like some sort of stuff where you're like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And most of it, though, is in the middle.
Yeah.
Most of it is, hey, you know what? There's been 3 studies done on it. One was in rats. Another one was a pilot study, and there was 15 subjects, and it showed a 4% improvement in zinc levels. Okay, is that real or not? It's peer-reviewed and published. They didn't fake the data of the study, but like, now some people look at that and go, oh, that's 4%. That's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. It's fake. It's pseudoscience. It's blah, blah, blah. And some people look at that and go, see, it's proven. And I look at it and go, well.
It's proven to 4%.
Does 4%
with
matter to
15
you?
people.
Yeah, it may or may not. I don't know. Like, I don't know on that one. If you decide that is actionable and I don't, great. If I do and you don't, that's fine. We're now differing on our risk aversion. We're not differing on fake science or pseudoscience when this isn't misinformation. I hate it when people do that stuff because you're like, it's very rarely just right or wrong. It is in our field of sport performance science, like it's a lot of like, it kind of did a little. Is that enough for you?
Yeah. Cold plunges.
Same thing, right? Like
good for you probably in some context.
Let's take
brings
cold
down
plunge.
inflammation.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Like you said that. I have used cold plunging for a decade, right? I've been in cold baths countless times. There's clear evidence to me at this point, and to me so much that the case is closed. If you get in an ice bath after lifting weights and you're trying to grow muscle mass, you're going to seriously blunt and block your ability to grow muscle.
What?
It's a very bad idea.
Is that right?
It completely attenuates muscle growth. Does it make it zero? No.
So interesting.
But it brings it way down.
I don't do cold baths, especially after I lift, which is why I'm getting so shredded.
Completely, right?
Keep going. But that's interesting.
But we use it in a lot of our athletes post-exercise. You want to know why?
Brings down inflammation.
Injury? I don't think we can make a super strong case for inflammation.
Why?
You can make a pretty decent case for if you're a Major League Baseball pitcher and we went out and played a game and we threw 120 pitches and we're not playing a game again for 5 days. I don't care at all about muscle growth, but you're really, really sore. And when you get in that ice bath, you feel way better faster. And in fact, we have metrics on you. We track your HRV. We take urine and saliva and blood every single day. We track your sleep. We have all these metrics that we have 5 years of data on. This is a real thing, by the way. And we have clear data that says when you get in the ice bath post-game, your recovery metrics are come back faster. Your HRV comes back faster. Your velocity in your baseball comes back faster. Your maximal internal, external rotation in your arm comes back faster because we're measuring these every single day. Your creatine kinase levels come back faster. I don't know how much more data you need.
That's a lot of data.
That person's coming back faster.
Yeah.
We're using it.
Yeah.
Okay? I do not care at all what the data on muscle growth says. Like, this is not our concern.
Right.
When we're using it in MMA fighters and we've got 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks before a world championship fight, and it feels better. Our metrics are showing they're recovering faster. I'm not trying to optimize at that, or not trying to adapt at that point. I'm trying to optimize.
Cold plunges work. And the reason we know they work is because they come back faster, better.
In my particular case, what I'm talking about very specifically is in these individual athletes.
Yeah,
it worked. I don't have all of my athletes do it though. Some hate it. Some freak out. Some do not like it at all. I'm not going to, the benefit is going to be lost in the mental anxiety stress because it's a big stressor. Yeah. It's not a recovery tool. It's a big ass stressor.
It's a big stressor.
It's a huge stressor.
Yeah.
You want to implement stressors very appropriately. So to me, I'm going on the data we have collected on the individual person. If we were to collect individual data on that person and it's not having a benefit or it's having a negative benefit or it's neutral and they don't like it, then it's out. So when it comes to my coaching practice, I really try to figure out like what is actually working in that person. And I don't want to just go on like, how'd you feel?
But you're not going to prescribe it to your average citizen. Do a cold plunge every day. Sit in water for 3 minutes.
Definitely not post lifting.
Yeah.
Now,
maybe, but otherwise,
whether you want to do it every day or not, we have some of our clients like we actually have one, the very famous drummer. I don't need a name drop. But he does it almost daily.
Yeah.
Loves it. Loves it at all. Like, I actually don't think it's changing any of his metrics, but he actually really enjoys it. He gets up every day, and when he's traveling, he's playing, he's on tour. He's been on tour a lot this year, and he can't do it. He's like, damn, I missed it. Like, okay, like, dude, you love it, Trav. Like, yeah, like, do it. Like, this is
I know
great
you're talking
here.
about that, and that particular person is in such good shape and is always takes his health very seriously.
Very seriously.
Yeah,
like
intense guy.
Yeah, it's very intense. Like, it's a very big part of his process.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at those people and going like, oh my gosh, you're stupid, or this is pseudo. Like, none of those things are. I'm going, hey, does it feel good? I love it.
That's it.
Great.
That's it.
Fantastic.
That's
Don't
it.
hop in there.
A lot of that's that. My mother's a big proponent of that. My mother just like, this makes me, a nap and tea makes me feel fantastic. Done.
Done.
You know
Science
what I mean?
over with.
There's certain things that you just do that make you feel good. I don't do well with red wine and meat at night. If I eat a steak and red wine, I'll see you at 2 a.m, between 2 and 4, and I'll be like, sweating, fucked up, so don't do it.
Yeah.
If I eat pasta at night, sleep like a baby, wake up with a flat stomach. It's really weird. So it all depends on your body.
That's pretty common.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
But I do way better with fish and chicken as far as a protein, and not that well with ribeye.
Yeah, totally. Right.
Just who I am.
I'll give you an example. We actually had, I'll skip the name. You would all know this person. Testosterone is concerned. A middle-aged individual would say it that. A classic, like thinking about, should I go on testosterone replacement therapy or not? Okay, great. That's a medical decision. That's not Andy. I'm not an MD. You want to do medicine, that's up to them. But we take a look and it's like, okay, testosterone's down. Free testosterone was pretty far down. And then we look, there's another protein called sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG. And this does exactly what it is. It's a globulin, it's a protein that binds sex hormones. Okay, so if all your testosterone is bound onto that, then there's none free. You would think about it, right? So when that number is really, really high, free testosterone tends to be low. So free testosterone is low, sex hormone binding globulin is high. Then we take a look at the next metric and we see insulin is low. I'm like, insulin, okay, great. We know that there's an inverse relationship between insulin and sex hormone binding globulin. So insulin goes low, that's going to drive SHB up, that's going to drive free testosterone down.
But everything's low here.
In this particular situation, testosterone is the symptom. It's not the problem.
It's the symptom.
It's the symptom.
Yeah.
That's the clue. So we're running a little detective game, right? I start off with your testosterone is low. How do you feel? Fatigued, sleepy, recovery, like all this stuff going down. Can't put on muscle mass. Okay, great. These are the signs and symptoms of
low T.
Right? And your free is low. Why? I think the guy was 50 or so at there. I'm 50. No, like it's not the microplastics. It's like not like
it's not the microplastics. Yeah,
there's something else probably going on here. It could be, but very unlikely. In our experience, like almost always something very easy to fix. So I'm going on a hunt. That's low. So that is high. That's high because that's low. Why is that low? Then we start tracking, looking at diet. Okay, I try to keep my carbohydrates low. Okay, great. Why? Because I have more sustained energy throughout the day and I don't crash. Okay, interesting. Well, first of all, that's not normal. That shouldn't be happening, right? Like that's common, but not normal. So that's another conversation. We can go fix that. And we do that all the time. It's like you can definitely eat carbohydrates and not crash.
You can eat carbohydrates and not crash.
There's a real thing there, right?
Yes.
But we take a look at it and he was doing, I think it was about 125 grams of carbohydrates a day, which is not nothing. Like, frankly, personally, I feel fine at that level. Even training and stuff like that, it's like, I don't need more than that. I feel fine higher, but like that's not crazy low. If someone was trying to get into like nutritional ketosis, it's typically like less than 50 grams.
So what would 125 grams be? A potato?
So no, way more. Like an apple is like 20, 25. A banana is 20, 25.
Okay, so 125 is a lot.
Oh yeah, you're having like potatoes and rice and like
Great.
It's not like thing.
You're having what normal, people
basically
would do.
You have some starch with breakfast probably.
Yeah.
Maybe some starch with dinner, some starch with lunch, and then maybe like like reasonable portions.
Right.
It's not a ton.
Right.
You can get to like 50, 60 grams of carbs in one serving of pasta pretty fast.
Right.
But other servings like rice and sweet potato, like it's pretty low.
Right.
Serving size 20, 25-ish there. So like not an unreasonable amount. But it was like trying to keep those things under check. And it's like, we ask him why, and it's all those things. So we start looking at it and we're like, all right, how about this? Right? Because here's a classic one. He would fall asleep easily because he was very tired at night, but then he would wake up 2, 3 in the morning, right? Hard time going back to sleep, right? All right, take a look at blood glucose overnight, because that's one of the things we measure is blood glucose overnight in our sleep analysis. Okay, dysfunctional thing. So if you're blood glucose, there's a thing in the morning when you wake up called sleep inertia. That's the feeling of like, how much of a train wreck do you feel like when you wake up?
Right.
Your inertia. That's tied to many things. One of them is blood glucose, so it's not the only one. And frankly, it's not even the most important. But his blood glucose was dysfunctional, low in the morning. So you're going to wake up low blood glucose because of insulin. Many things. In his case, only insulin. We're walking back. Okay, why don't we add 75 grams of carbohydrates? Like,
because you surmised that his glucose levels in his blood were too low, and that was one of the reasons he was waking up groggy.
They were not in the right spot, but it's not the blood glucose.
Okay.
That was just the signal that said we're on the right track.
Something's going on.
The insulin being down is where we knew we were onto something. We looked at, guy trained hard.
Yeah.
Trains in a lot of stuff. And we're like, you don't have enough carbohydrates. Put an extra 75 grams of carbohydrates in at night.
At night.
At night, at dinner.
Yeah.
Not like 20 minutes before bed.
Yeah.
Like a common,
like a bowl of pasta.
7 p.m. kind of thing, go to bed at 9.
Yeah.
Plus or minus, whatever that thing was. Right? Probably a little bit earlier, 6, and he goes to sleep early. Okay, great. Almost instantaneously. Holy shit, slept through the whole night.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, weird, huh, right?
How awesome.
Go back and do his labs. What happened to his testosterone?
We shot up.
On a rocket ship.
Damn.
What happened to his joint pain, inflammation stuff? It didn't go shooting up. Didn't crash throughout the day. Like, none of those things happen when people say, oh, carbohydrates. Like, if they are doing that to you, if your joints hurt when you eat carbs, that is a strong sign you have dysfunction somewhere. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, if you can't afford service or testing or something like that.
But what a great thing. You just literally increase his carbs by 75.
Just like, hey, bro, go eat some more pasta. In his particular case,
more pasta, and
rice
he's like,
potatoes.
damn.
And he's just like, wow.
That's so fascinating. And so when people wake up groggy, give us the cliff notes on why you think that is. Well, what are the first things you're looking at? Okay, how can they fix it?
Yeah, very first thing is total sleep duration matters. First, right? If you're sleeping 5 hours, you're going to feel groggy.
You're going to feel groggy.
This is normal.
Yeah.
Second thing is sleep quality.
Yeah.
Right. So how often are you waking up? And then so I can go on a whole thing about, you asked for cliff notes, so I'll stop. But the way that people measure and track sleep is completely fucked. Like you're not paying attention to the normal things. It's like, I'll say this. I don't mean to be super arrogant, but when I have a $600 million athlete, I'm not doing a $300 sleep wearable. Can we just say that? Yeah. Like, that's not the way we're going to measure sleep.
Yeah, we're not going to. Yeah, we're gonna.
You're
gonna be in a fucking chamber.
We build sleep labs in people's house.
Wow.
For very cheap, $200.
Wow. You do?
Yeah.
How do you do?
We have full FDA approved clinical sleep studies.
Can people get that service
100%.
from you?
Yeah, absolute rest.
Absolute rest.
Yep, 100%.
I'm on that, dude. You know this.
Dude, we'll do the full one on you, like the whole.
I'm 100% need to see how I'm sleeping.
Because we have like a very elite advanced package, and then we have a consumer, like literally a couple $100 version of it, and like we can, like, okay, let's flag this because I want to answer your question, but like I can share with you a bunch of fun stuff on sleep.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that. What we're not looking at is your sleep stages. So if you ever use a tracker or wearable, and it's like, this is how much deep sleep or REM sleep, just throw that shit away.
I did, because I don't need Whoop or whoever it is telling me that I didn't get enough sleep. It's going to be in my mind.
You're going to know.
You're going to know.
You're going to know.
You're going to feel it. Yeah.
Your sleep stages are also measured incorrectly on those devices. They're close, but your sleep stages in general are a false number. It doesn't matter. What is officially deep or REM sleep is an arbitrary number set many, many years ago, kind of haphazardly. Like kind of how sleep association had to be like, this is deep and this is REM. And they actually change them. They've been changed multiple times. So like what's considered deep or whatever. Like not the algorithms of the company. I mean like the scientific community has changed what's defined as deep sleep, or it's different ones. So there are much, much, much better ways. And in fact, I can give you an example. Oh, okay. Let's see if I can do this without, I'm gonna have to be careful here. I can give you an example of a current world champion in a major sport. I know you know this person personally. I don't know how well you know them, but I know you know them. Everyone in the world will know this person. That person wore a sleep technology and was fully convinced that person's, and I'm trying to not use pronouns.
I know who it is. I know.
That person thought that sleep was perfect because they were getting great scores.
Yeah.
And then we looked at the stuff and we were like, oh, wow, your sleep is terrible. And that person was like, what? And we were able to explain what's happening and then put them in there like, oh my God, like I thought I was sleeping well. I did not realize what good sleep
how did
really
you fix
is.
their sleep?
So in that particular person's case, there's a handful of things. That person had a world competition coming up very soon. So there's only so much you could do. Most of the work is then like, let's get that competition out of the way and let's come back. It is everything from dialing in environment. So we have a full environmental scanner that's going on full time in your bedroom. And we're looking for dander, pollen, allergens, mold, of course. But even things like light, temperature, sound, all that. CO2 concentrations. CO2, if you were to hold your breath right now, your body will, the CO2 concentrations in your body go up. Right? So the thing that makes you feel like you want to breathe is not oxygen getting lower, typically, it's CO2 rising. So CO2 has this bidirectional relationship.
So when they say that, David Blaine was saying, when you hold your breath, you want to breathe because of the CO2 it's trying to get out.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But you can train yourself to kind of get over that somehow.
Well, you can scrub it. So if you can hyperventilate, you overbreathe, you dump CO2. That gets here. This is fun. If you hyperventilate, which a huge percentage of people are doing this at night, by the way.
Really?
Oh yeah. This is one of the things we look at. We can look at your respiratory rate, and I automatically know what's happening with your autonomic nervous system, and I know what's happening with your sleep quality instantaneously based on how often you're breathing at night. That number is way higher than people realize it should be.
Damn.
So we're watching that. That's like.
So how do we fix that? If somebody's listening to this right now, how would they? Don't drink at night. That's for sure. Right?
Yeah, that's a fair one.
Not a good one. Make sure your caffeine consumption is probably.
Everything we do tries to be high precision.
Yeah.
And so what we do with all of our folks in Absolute Rest and like Rapid and Vitality, all of these companies, we want to collect enormous amount of data so that we can give you very high precision, simple solutions. I can tell of you.
That's what you guys did with me. You basically gave me this supplement protocol and I was like, this is all I got to do. And you were like, yeah, it works. And it does. And I called Rogan, who's been telling me to take supplements forever. And I've always said I'm not doing it because I just,
didn't believe
and I called him up and I go, I haven't had a cold. I go, dude, I'm telling you. And he goes, Dave, why are you telling me? I know. I've been saying this to you forever. Don't tell me now that all of a sudden it's like calling me up. Hey, Joe, this iPhone, it actually works. I can watch film on it. Shut up.
Yeah.
But most of your doctors, most of your scientists would say there's no evidence that supplements work.
Yeah.
But they weren't performance.
It's precision that matters.
Yeah.
It is precision that matters, right? So when you ask me like what to do, I can answer this in two ways. I could give you the same rigmarole, like here's the classic stuff to do. But why we've had so much success is because we don't do that.
Yeah.
We're able to snipe this shit out. I can go, hey, for you need to change your pillow. Wow. That's it. For you need to open up your window. The CO2 concentration is getting too high in your bedroom. For you, we need you to do this breathwork protocol prior to sleep. For you, it's like different. That's why we've had so much success in these people who, like the most common person who's come to us has been I've had multiple sleep studies done. I've done this. I've tried this supplement. I've done all these things. And my sleep is just screwed. Not the case. Not at all the case. Like we've seen that story 1,000 times. I'm like, yeah, you're special. You're the special one. No, you're not. Like we've seen this before. And we just smash it. And they're like, what the shit? Like we've had so many people. Tarek did this with T. He was like, he called me. He's like, I just slept for 10 hours. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I haven't done that since I was like 12. Like what the hell happened? Yeah. And he's like, I'm sleeping 9 hours straight every night. Great. And I'm like, yeah. When you know exactly what lever to pull on, things become much easier. And so, all of the stuff you hear all the time, it is absolutely true. That is the place to start. Right. If you can't afford any of our services or anybody, like absolutely
no caffeine at night, no alcohol, little things like that.
I'll give you another free one.
Don't eat a bunch of like meat that's hard to break down, and depending on who you are, some people can. I can't.
I handle it super well.
Yeah, I can't.
Dude, I just smash it.
Really? You can eat meat and everything. I can't do that. I can eat carbs at night and I sleep like a baby. Yeah. I got to start eating more carbs at night.
The only thing
last night I ate seafood and steak. That was dumb. And then shitloads of wine. Yeah, I got to get some pasta in me.
Yeah. Alcohol will get me like pretty consistently. And another one that gets me a lot is if I have like a lot of really acidic stuff. So I'm fine on pasta, but if we do like a really crafted, nicely done like tomato gravy, I'm fine on it. But if I have that, like if it's like way late at night because you're out traveling or whatever, I'm like gonna be like, ooh, like all right.
What do you are a scientist? You're healthy. You're physically fit. You know, and you really push your body. You'll lift. You know. Did you do a lot of MMA?
I did it mostly during my doctorate, so like a 3.5, 4 year span.
So you've always put your money where your mouth is, and you work with all these pro athletes. What do you do? What are the things you do? What are the supplements you take? What is it you do? How do you eat?
Yeah.
What do you believe are superfoods, for example?
I want people to think about this as, like, we have talked about supplements a lot, but I will go months and months and months without any, intentionally. The end goal should be, I want you all to live a phenomenal life. I want you all to look how you want to look. You tell me how you want to look. That's not for me to decide. You tell me what the rules are, and we'll just say we'll get there, right? I want you to feel how you want to feel. Again, that's different for even you and I. Like, there's different things you want to feel. Okay, great. And I want you to perform how you want to perform. How you define perform, right? My wife defines performing differently. I sit at a computer all day. She has a different thing. Like, you do differently. Okay, you set me the ground rules on how you want to look like, how you want to feel, how you want to perform. And then my target is to say, can I get you in a spot where you're getting those things with the most amount of real world solutions possible? I want you in sunlight. I want you to have great relationships. I want you to feel purpose. I want you to eat real whole food. I don't want you having a 90-minute routine just to get to sleep.
Right.
I don't want you to have to get in a cold plunge to have a good day.
Yeah.
I don't want you on 400 different fucking supplements. Like, I don't want any of those things. But if I see an opportunity where I can go, hey, look, this is going to correct a state, change a state permanently as much as we can, that allows you to then pull back and get to that final goal.
Get that optimal level.
That's what I want. That's what we did with you, right?
Yeah.
We did that protocol. It sucked for 6 months.
Yep.
And 5 years later, the problem has never come back.
Never come back.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't like being like people think of me as like, oh, he's like a huge supplement.
I remember Dan said, I'll build a fucking pyramid of cheese with you and drink all the wine you want, but let me just get you through this.
Yeah.
And there it was.
Nailed it, right?
Have you studied this guy, Bryan Johnson? You didn't answer my question, though, yet.
I will answer your question.
Okay.
I do know Bryan, yeah.
What do you think? Because he takes 110 pills.
So
you've worked with him, or?
I know Bryan.
You probably can't say it. Yeah, I guess. Okay.
Look, I'm always in support of people
trying to
learn new things.
Yeah, learn new things.
I hate the biohacking thing. But like, we're gonna learn some stuff off him, and that's cool. Not how I choose to live my lifestyle.
Love this. I love that diplomatic answer. You're a scientist, and you're good. You're good for you.
All of my interactions with him have been positive.
Yeah,
that's that's all I can say. And there. So
yeah,
answering my question.
But you don't do what Bryan Johnson does. You do. You stay pretty simple.
I'm more interested in, like, I want to be clear. I'm not making a value statement or judgment. I personally, I'm so consumed with the idea of going like, what's the fucking thing that's going to work?
Yeah,
for all of us.
Yeah.
That's why I have never taken a hormone of any kind. I don't know if I'm not against it. Like, it's not a value judgment. But me, I'm like, if I do that, then I'm not going to really ever know, like, fixing that respiratory, did that matter?
Yeah.
Did that, I'm trying to get to that end goal. And I know once hormones come in the equation, I'm not even saying it's cheating. Like, I really, really want to be careful, but I'm like, okay, I didn't do it the most, like, okay. Can we have got it there? Like, the hormone's down for a reason. Could we figure out why? Like, that's what I'm personally consumed with.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to, like, run through and spend time on this, and others aren't. And it's just like, hey, I just want to feel better.
Well, if you wanted to, you probably could dial it down.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get into changing your endocrine system, you've got the resources and the people. Yeah. Like, where you could just, you could just,
we could do whatever.
It'd be the best. Like, if I came to you, here's my question.
We do this.
Bryan Callen comes to you. He's 57.
Yeah.
He's 175.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of myostatin inhibitors, and he says,
we got a lot of myostatin.
I got a lot of myostatin.
Oh,
okay. I got a lot of myostatin. Yeah. So I'm also not a natural mesomorph. I'm an ectomorph, whatever it is. I say to you, Andy, I want to put on 20. I got to do this film. I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle.
We've done this before.
Yeah, I want to put on 20 pounds of muscle, and I want to put it all over my body uniformly.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, man. Okay, like.
And I can
tell you all the answers, by the way. But the one thing that's the X factor here, and I can say this because take Henry Cavill for Superman. Right? I don't know Henry, never worked with him. My friend Michael Blevins did. My friend Michael did all of his stuff. And I always go back to Michael because he said this to me one time personally. He said, I can't remember the exact quote. I wish I did, but it was like one of the most profound things I've ever heard somebody say. It was something to the effect of like, I challenge you all to try to do what Henry did and take that excuse that you don't have the resources he has out of the way. Like, I dare you. Because he's like, you know what he has to still do? He has to lift weights.
Oh, yeah.
Really fucking hard.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And he's really tired.
Yeah.
And he's sore.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get to do fun things. And he has
eat
to
shit he
weigh
doesn't wanna
and
eat.
measure
Yeah.
all of his food. And it fucking sucks for a year.
Yeah.
And he has to sleep.
That's
He
like
has to,
Gerard Butler, too. It's all of those
yeah,
guys.
Jerry, I do the same thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, so that answer is simple. The hard part of this equation is, dude, can you do the work? It is hard. It is really, if you want to like literally 20 pounds of muscle as a...
Well, when I was with Brian Shaw, Brian had to eat when he was competing 12 times a day.
Yeah,
The hardest part was eating.
totally.
Like, it's like he trains 2 hours, but the rest is he's got to eat every 2 hours,
Yeah.
2.5 hours maybe.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to chew. He goes, when you're really training and serious, you might be spending 4 hours a day chewing. That's a bitch.
Dude, look at what Brian does, okay? Okay, all the money in the world, all the technology in the world. The hard part is look at how he has to live his lifestyle.
Right. He's so disciplined. The way he eats.
You could pick the term discipline, whatever, but it's like you literally, if you literally did robot and you did exactly how we trained and you measured everything we said every day and you ate exactly and measured, you never stayed up a minute later you never left your house. All you did was this, like, yeah.
So that's what you'd have to do with me. You would give me
No.
a protocol where it'd be like, you know.
We would come in, of course, like for you, if it's like, okay, which way you want to do this? You want to do this if you're like, hey, there's $50 million on the line. I'm taking a different approach.
No, look at me. I want the drugs, bro.
Okay.
I want it all. Don't tell me about chicken breast and weightlifting. No. I'm doing all that shit, obviously.
So we're putting, we're probably putting a trainer or a coach in your house.
In my house.
Somebody's living with you.
He can't be better looking than me because my wife is young.
Ooh, I didn't consider that.
Yeah. But you know what? Let's do it. You know what? My body matters more. Keep going.
You said you're willing to sacrifice, right?
You got to sacrifice, bro. You got to sacrifice. You know, that's how it is. And if I have an illegitimate child that has a lot of myostatin inhibitors, then we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we're getting somebody there full time. Like we're gonna be trying to lift weights
full time. Fuck.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to literally.
Jesus,
do that,
what are you, the Communist Chinese Party? And am I a Uyghur? Keep going. Fuck.
Again, I'm asking how serious.
All right, I'm serious. Let's go.
We're going to be training there. Yeah, you're definitely going to go on anabolics. Like that's going to help.
I have to.
You don't have to.
What do you mean I don't have to? Of course I'd have to, wouldn't I?
You want to put on 20 pounds of muscle. Like,
what kind of weightlifting are we talking about? Heavy lifting?
No, I mean, we're going to do a combination of, it's all going to be resistance training.
Yeah. How many hours a day? An hour maybe?
Oh yeah, I think that's fair.
Yep.
Diminishing returns there.
Right, right. And then the rest is eating. And the rest is
no. What we'd have to. So in this particular case, your issue would be the recovery. Can you? So the one of the major determinants upon how much muscle you grow, there's an idea. Think about it this way: it's called your maximal recoverable volume. So the way that your body will adapt to stress, you put stress in the system, it changes. The more stress you put on, the more changes you get. But in this particular case, if the stress you put in the system outpaces the recovery, then we can't get back to train again. And so what we need to do in this case is say, hey, you need the stimulants, you need the energy, you need the time and the focus, which means we look at the whole allostatic load. That's the science word for every stress is stress. So first of all, we're gonna cancel the fight and the kid. We're canceling other stuff you got going on. We're canceling your comedy tour. That's all gone. Those are two stressors. You're training, you're moving, you're outside there.
That's it.
That's gone. Any negative relationships, any other things that are going psychological stressors on you, those are out the door. Your lawyer's not updating you on the business deal. Like that's all sort of gone. Like we're pulling out all the stops here, right? So we're going in there. We're looking at these are all visible stressors. We sort of open the conversation with that. So I'm going through the list of every single visible stressor. What is a lever I can pull that is putting stress in the system, but it's not the targeted stress we want? The targeted stress we want is anabolic. That's the only stressor we want going in the system. Any other non-specific stressor is off the table because all it is doing is taking away from our recovery capacity. Then we're coming in and we're saying, all right, what are the visible stressors or the hidden stressors? What are things that are putting stress in your system that you don't see or feel? What is your exact micronutrient status? What is your gut microbiome? What is we're going to take hundreds of blood markers, right? Like we're going to run you through this entire thing and look at what are all non-specific.
Is this what a lot of athletes do?
The ones that work with us do.
Wow.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
And this is what you went through, basically.
Yeah.
You just didn't hear the whole backstory, sort of it. We're running through all this stuff, right? That allows us to then say, okay, all stressors in the system are coming at as much as we can control at a targeted way, right? And then we're going to go on the back end, which is the recovery side, and say, okay, how can we throttle up recovery? Okay, making sure first step is that there's no brakes on the system, which is the first half of it. So you're not slowing shit down intentionally. So let's say we took care of all that stuff. And now we're going to go from good sleep to great sleep. There is tons of data on what's called sleep extension. So you're looking at studies that have gone from people that are sleeping, say, 8 hours a night, and you extend it by 60, 90, or 120 minutes. And you start seeing market improvements in performance, in recovery, in reaction time.
So 9 hours, 10 hours.
9 hours, 10 hours. You start throttling up.
Yeah.
Do you need 9 hours of sleep to be a healthy 60-year-old? No. You didn't ask that.
Right.
You said, like, can I get 20, like, can I get, what is the maximum thing?
I want to build, I'm changing my endocrine system.
We're dialing the system to 10.
Yes.
This is what I said is dialing the system to 10. This is not,
doesn't mean I'm going to live longer. Doesn't mean I'm going to live longer. No.
I don't care.
Right.
We're
talking about symmetry. We're talking about cutting light well with my abs, my chest,
you got
my
a
shoulders.
year to perform at your best.
Yes. I want an ass. I have a nice ass, but I want bigger thighs. I want to look like a fucking frog.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I need bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're dialing all that stuff up. Okay. And then we're going to start adding on additional recovery tools to help you come back. This is where things like PEMF would come in. This is where things like red light therapy, stuff that is like, it's not your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth place, but you didn't ask for that. You said, like, give me everything. Okay, great. You said unlimited budget. You didn't say that, but I put that in for you. Okay, we're going to add these things in. We're probably getting manual therapy, soft tissue, like a hand
massage,
things like this.
Why?
Same thing.
Helps recovery.
Making sure we're going on recovery, even psychological.
Because I work out probably 5 times a day. 5 times a week. I should get massages.
It's up to you.
Yeah. Okay, keep going.
I don't personally.
You don't?
No, yeah. I don't personally.
My calves are a mess. I don't know why.
Oh, there's a reason. If that happens consistently, then there's a reason.
Why?
I don't know. We'd have to figure it out. But like, if you have a very specific,
my calves are always sore.
Yeah, then there's some reason.
Really?
Right? So if we ran you through like Springbok or ran you through a movement assessment, you knew what's going on from the muscle level, what's going on from movement wise. There's a guaranteed reason.
Okay.
It's the same thing I'm talking about with testosterone. Like,
I need to do that. I need to do that with you guys because
physiology is not
hurting me all the time.
You figure like constantly, it's been for years these things is happening.
Yeah. I can't run that far.
Yeah. Then like there's something mechanical with how you're moving probably.
Okay.
That's putting all the stress load there.
Yeah.
That could be, you'd have to do a little bit of like algorithm to kind of yes, no, check balance, a little decision.
Where are those insoles?
I don't think we need to.
Okay.
We could figure it out probably watching you move a little bit.
Okay.
And maybe it could even be things like what type of shoe you're wearing and like different shit like that. But we'd have all that dialed in, okay? And so you're going to wake up in the morning. You're going to sleep great. You're going to wake up in the morning. You're going to have a very specific supplementation. The nutrition program we're going to put you on is going to be not only just calories and macronutrients, it's going to be micronutrient based, right? So we need every last little detail. We need to account for every single macronutrient, weighed and measured, how you're cooking, how you're preparing, all this matters, right? Then you're going to have probably some sort of like sunlight, some sort of, depending on you, and this is different for everyone.
You're just going to be, how many calories do you think I'm taking in a day? I'm 175.
I don't know, 3,500 maybe?
Okay.
Like something like that, maybe less.
And then mostly a combination of meat, carbs, fats.
We'll actually know that because we actually can, we can actually run double labeled water on you. And so we'll actually have you, basically you'll drink a thing, you'll urinate into a cup multiple times. We'll take that back to the lab. We'll actually measure and we'll know your exact basal metabolic rate. That's the scientific gold standard.
Dude, this is so nuts.
Yeah.
This is the kind of shit you have to go through. And then
you don't have to do that.
Well, I'm never doing it. Yeah. But also, but then give me, you're gonna up my testosterone and are you gonna give me what else are you gonna give me? Human growth?
Maybe.
Are you afraid of human growth? Does that cause cancer?
If you step into disease questions, I step out of the answer. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Okay, good. Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to ask you off air. Yeah.
Again,
you are a doctor, but not, yeah. And I don't know if doctors have the answer.
I don't use any peptides personally. I don't use any hormones. That's not
Are peptides human growth hormone? Is that
growth hormone is peptide.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Insulin's a peptide.
So growth hormone is also, so human growth hormone.
Yeah.
HGH.
That's peptide. Yeah.
That's a peptide.
Yeah, insulin.
And there are different kinds of growth hormone.
Yeah.
Peptides will cause the body to create growth hormone, or
no.
But you had me on peptides.
Yes. we would probably have you on peptides. HGH might be one of them. Testosterone is an anabolic sex hormone. So like that would be in the equation.
Yep.
I honestly wouldn't use it for you though. Your testosterone's already 900.
So you'd use
Probably use nothing there.
peptides.
I would probably be looking more at like recovery. And then that's when you would get things like potentially CGC or CJC, ipsamorelin.
What's that? Those are steroids?
There's all class of peptides. BPC 157, TB 500s. Like there are things there if it's like,
Are these new? These are
No.
They've been around. Peptides been around a long time.
again, insulin is a peptide. Insulin's been around for 60 years.
Yes.
So these are not new.
Yes, but these new class of peptides that I hear.
If you look at like BPC 157, TB 500, those are the ones that are like more like the CJC, things like that.
I have friends who really swear by it in how they've helped them recover.
Again, hormones are real.
Yeah, they're real.
If you're playing with that stuff, no question. The major downside is things like TB 500 is banned for athletes. It's on the WADA list, so we can't use it at all for any of our athletes. So that's just off the table. BPC 157 is actually the reason it's called BPC 157 is it's actually naturally occurring in your gut, right? And so it is used a couple of different ways. One, it could be a cream or an injection. And then another way is actually as an oral. And the original reason it was an oral is because of gut health, like because it is sort of made there. There is very little data in humans. Okay,
So we don't know much.
we don't know much about it. The data on
So you're a little weary of it.
I'm always super weary of those things, but I can tell you many of people I've worked with have used it for injury recovery. That is the most common use. So site-specific recovery. So
my buddy used it for his shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It is things like that. It is people. It is again musicians and actors and stuff. Where you're like, hey, I have to get back. If it has the potential to help, and there's little risk, then I want to take it.
Have you guys seen?
But again, we can't use BP57 with our athletes either, so that's off the table.
You can't do that either. Have you seen any stem cells? What are your thoughts on stem cell therapy?
Stem cells,
I think the same idea.
The short answer here would be think of it a little bit like the genetic stuff we were talking about, but better in terms of clearly something's there. Positive. Like clearly there's going to be something here. We're also very clearly
in the infancy.
Very unknown here, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows how many should you use, what combinations, how should it come, what other things should be in there or not. And they're like, it's crazy because the field would be like really excited and something look like it's breaking, and then another study will come from another lab and it's like, no. And it's like, damn, all right. To me, I think generally my position on stem cell, I have used them personally, but we don't use them very often.
You have used them?
Yeah. I have used them on my knee.
And you don't know?
Meh.
Yeah.
I know, like, didn't do much, but I'm not going to throw the field out because of my personal experience. Right. I can cite many cases in which we have used it and people have felt like it helped a ton. And so to me, I generally call it 50-50. It looks like if it's soft tissue related type of stuff, there's a chance there. If it is like a full legitimate ligament tear, probably nothing. It is cartilage. Doesn't look like there's much there at all. And so it kind of depends on what the person's after. And like to me, this is just a classic case of when you ask me things like, does it work? I have to contextualize and go, okay, well, again, what are you expecting it to do? How much money are you expecting to spend? And where does that line up for you?
Right.
So Bryan Callen, the 57-year-old, worth $600 million, that is a different value proposition than someone who goes, God, like I'm a construction worker and I made 50 grand, 80 grand this year. And like,
I just want to feel better.
That's why I don't want to be in pain anymore. Then I'm going, God, do you need to fly to Panama and spend 20 grand? Like,
take some aspirin.
I can tell you right now, I've had some NFL guys spend 6 figures on it and come back and go,
damn,
I got nothing.
I believe it.
Like I got nothing. And I've had some get one shot and be like, oh my God. Like we've used it getting you guys ready for the Super Bowl multiple times recently. We're like bad injuries and the like AFC, NFC championship games or the week before, and you're like, this guy's not gonna be ready, no chance. And in that case,
well, Aaron Rodgers,
everything on the fucking table.
Yeah, because Aaron Rodgers said he was ready to play. Of course, he didn't. So you wonder sometimes.
So Aaron is a good example. I don't know Aaron personally, but we were part of some of those conversations because Aaron Alexander, who's on his team.
I know
Aaron.
Yeah,
super sweet guy.
Great guy. Handsome son of a bitch.
Oh.
I mean, talk about a great body.
He's the guy I want to live in your house.
Well, dude, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
This whole project is
because that's a problem because I'm a straight man, but not when I look at him. When I look at him, I might be having sex with him.
Your wife is going to lose her husband.
Yeah, she's going to. That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm going to shack up with Aaron. It's like, honey, I got to tell you something. I thought I was straight this whole time, but at 57, I found love. Yeah, he's a stud and just a sweetheart, man.
Yeah. So in that particular case, it was like, hey, if it's not illegal, if the chance of harm is low, then let's stack it on there.
Yeah.
The issue is approaches like that is like, what worked? Was it the PEMF? Was it the fact that Aaron is a body worker and had his hands on Aaron Rodgers multiple times a day for months?
Yeah.
Is it the nutrition? I don't know what he was doing for blood work. Like, well, honest answer is, it's all of it.
And by the way, it's also Aaron Rodgers. You're dealing with a different physical specimen.
Athlete.
You're dealing with
how many games
athlete.
Aaron has missed in his career?
How many?
I don't know, but it's like none.
That's what.
So he's already clearly super resilient.
You're talking about one of the best quarterbacks ever.
Yeah,
it's a very different human being.
Yeah,
you're talking about now you're talking about mind-body connection. You're talking about 1,000 things. You're talking about this incredible organism called a human being. But I'm moving you in the direction of I want to come back to what I can expect in the future. Is there something I can look forward to, Andy Galpin, in 10 years, in 15 years? What is my life going to be like 20 years from now?
Yeah. The 2015 is a landmark year because here in America and the UK and many other places, the government started backing these precision medicine approaches. And that is to say, we can learn a lot from again, to go back to genetics, just to give us a tangible thing. Those tell us good information about genetic level stuff, population level stuff. They don't tell us much about the individual person though. But this is science. Like this is science. Science doesn't tell you what to do in your individual practice. It says, hey, what's most likely to work most of the time and most people.
Right.
That's all science can ever do.
What's most likely to work?
Most people, most of the time.
Most of the time, right.
Okay. It is a blunt instrument. It is never, and it's rarely going to be hyper prescriptive for the individual person. Right. It's just a starting place, right? And so where we need to get to now is, okay, well, let's get to that second place. How do we create tools and ability for people?
Like gene therapy.
No, just to even like, can I get a marker that is more accessible?
Right. So Bryan, you do better with whey protein isolate, not whey protein.
Perfect.
Like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, can we get there? Can we even get maybe even less granular to start?
Yeah.
Can we say things like, hey, it looks like you'll probably have a better chance if you emphasize your sleep more. However, you over there might like you'll probably have a better starting point if you really pay attention to your stress levels. They seem to really be affecting you the most. Okay, great. That is still precision a little bit, and now we've given you that because the problem we have in this coaching field, if you pay attention to your health, if you're interested in this stuff, you're going to get inundated with so many things.
Yeah.
The question is not what should I be doing. The question is, can you wipe all that away from me?
Yeah.
Can you wash it all down and go, yo, for me, I need a multivitamin, a therapist, and I need to make sure I work out.
That's it.
Great. For you,
yeah,
you need to, that's what we really do in our coaching program. Yeah. So like that thing I guarantee.
I love that idea. It's a process of deletion. It's more exactly than it is a process of addition.
100%. Like, and then after that, it goes, these are optionals.
Yeah.
These have
you're still telling me that's all good. I want to know if you are privy to anything that's going to be getting me to, the next level. So I want to know if in 10 years or 15 years, 20 years, I wake up and I take 7 pills. And that means my hair stays, my skin looks amazing, my mobility is unbelievable, my muscle fiber is, I can actually put muscle on. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, I think we already kind of have that.
You mean with testosterone and human growth?
No, I mean like, look, we've had a ton of success with simple protocols like that with people. Just being able to say, look, if we really know, like I'll give you I'm trying to just not do this, but I'll just have, you're kind of forcing me into it. But this is why we've created our company Vitality. All right. So this,
I want you to promote, look, you guys, Vitality, Rapid Health, sleep, what is it called?
Absolute Rest.
Absolute Rest, which I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Those are the 3 big ones.
Those companies are, I know from working with you, and I've talked about this ad nauseum on whether it's Rogan or anywhere else. people ask me, I talk about Andy Galpin and Dan Garner. And I do it because I trust you guys and I have benefited from it. And I know your approach. I know how insane you are.
Right.
You're I can't get an answer out of you because you're such a scientist. It's unbelievable. And this
sorry.
but this is one of the reasons that I trust you, because whatever you say always works. It's so crazy because you work. I always say, I actually use you as an example all the times. I go, Andy Galpin, if you do whatever service he has, he's the guy if you're very serious, because you work with the top athletes in the world and some of the biggest people in the world. And if they don't see results, you're out of a job. And that's what I love.
Yeah, we don't have the opportunity to be kind of good.
No, I know. And
don't have the opportunity to be like good.
But you also you are physical, and everybody on your team is in great shape. You guys are all, you gals and guys are living this stuff.
Yeah,
so
100%.
So I want you to plug it because I think it makes a difference.
To me, we created this company, Vitality Blueprint, to fill this hole. Yeah, I'm not talking about.
I'm so glad you did, because when I push people to Dan now, he's so expensive. But now you have an affordable thing.
Yeah, I mean, our full immersion coaching program is multiple 5 figures. Yeah. It's not affordable, and it sells out. It's already sold out months and months and months in advance, right? That's not a viable option for many. It's great service, and we've had a ton of success. But from there, we're like, how do we make this thing scalable? And so we came down and we built Vitality. Vitality is, imagine if you can get under the hood, the most comprehensive analysis of what's actually happening in your physiology from the perspective of performance. Mm-hmm. If you want to get checked for your risk of cardiovascular disease, all that, blah, 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 go find another company. There's plenty great doing that. You want to get scanned and see if you have a cancer, awesome. I don't do medical stuff. If you want to know how you're looking, feeling, performing right now, and then you want to know specifically what to do that, then that's what we're about. And so the key distinctions are, all right, we're going to offer, and we've built what we call premium performance blood work. You're going to get nutrition, exercise, and supplementation based on your specific biology from the perspective of high performance. And I want to be really clear, I don't mean athletics. I don't mean
sport. Just mean living your life.
I mean you perform.
Energy.
You want to play?
Yeah.
You want to have sport? You have a body, you're an athlete. I just want you, again, you say me the terms. How do you want to look, how you want to feel, how you want to perform? You define those things to me, and I want you to perform
I now know it's not going to be, I don't have the
20
time
pounds
for that
of muscle.
Stuff. God. Yeah.
So the hard part about this is you can get a lot of metrics, genetics and stuff like that. As we talked about, like the protein level is really telling you where it's at, and that's why we're doing so much blood and the other markers. Where we really are different here is the fact that we are not going to analyze you compared against a reference range of sick people. We don't. If you look at standard reference ranges, so if you ever had blood work done, and on the right-hand side of the column, it says that reference range, right? And it tells you if you're high or low. That is a huge issue because those reference ranges are based on a population that is probably not the population you want to be compared against. Right?
Yeah.
And so there are, and Dan could give you 1,000 examples of this, and I could give you plenty right now as well, of going, all right, great, let's look at, say, let's look at albumin. This is an example that's really easy. So albumin is this little protein that is in your body that carries many factors, red blood cells, that carries cortisol. It's the actual, the white part of egg whites. The protein is albumin in there, okay? Super, super important. Albumin is what's called an acute phase reactant, which means if you are dehydrated, right now, I guarantee your albumin's a little bit high.
Because I drank last night?
Because you're a little dehydrated.
Yeah, I feel it. Yeah.
At the same time, it goes down with inflammation. So, because you drank last night, you're probably also a little bit
inflamed.
So if you were to get your blood labs done, you know what your albumin would look like right now? Peachy keen. It'd be right in the middle.
Oh.
Because the inflammation took it one direction, the dehydration took it another direction, and it's in the middle. So you get these labs done, and people go, oh, your labs look fine. But you're like, I don't feel fine.
Right.
I'm not recovering fine. And you're like, well, nothing's off of the chart here.
Wow.
It's a classic example of like, you don't know what the fuck you're looking at.
Yeah.
Now I can go back and cross-reference that. I can go look at your potassium. I can look at your sodium. I can look at cortisol or DHEA, sulfate ratios. Like I can look at this stuff and go, okay, actually you're seeing other signs of dehydration over here and here. We're also seeing other markers of inflammation over here. I know why your albumin is in the middle there. You didn't care about your albumin. You didn't come in asking about your albumin. You came in because you're like, man, My joints always hurt. I feel low energy all the time. Low energy, I feel brain fatigue all the time. There are super clear associations between mood and cognitive function with as slight as 2% dehydration.
Damn.
And so I'm going, oh, your brain fog you're thinking? You don't have a mold in the corner.
You just haven't been drinking enough water.
It's as simple as that sometimes.
Damn.
And that one's a crazy one because when
I believe that because I
like, holy shit.
See, I know that from living in Saudi Arabia as a kid. Like you don't realize when you live in the desert and you go to Vegas, your lips get chapped. Just drink water.
Totally.
You don't realize what it's doing, and you're not thirsty. You get thirsty later. If you're thirsty in the desert, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because you should be drinking way before you get thirsty. And people would come to Saudi Arabia and they go, I don't feel good. Yeah, you're dehydrated. I'm not thirsty. You're dehydrated.
Yeah.
I don't feel good. Drink 2 glasses of water and come talk to me instantaneously. They're like, oh, dude, this is amazing.
Yeah. Digestive issues,
so
muscle
foods,
cramp, all of it.
you and I talked about foods.
Yeah.
And, I think we came to the fact that there are some superfoods. One would be blueberries. The other would be oysters.
Yeah. I do remember this conversation. Yeah.
Why blue? I mean, is that true?
Well,
So red meat, if I say Andy, I'm an American, whatever. Andy, I'm a human being. You can only give me 5 foods. You can include, water's not included. 5 foods. I get 5 foods.
Yeah.
What are they?
I'm probably going somewhere in the neighborhood of, blueberries is a great start. There's tons of data.
I can eat those every day.
There are, for sure.
Yeah.
You can eat a lot of them too. There's actually a number of studies we work with very, very high profile golfers. And there's actually data specifically on a cup of blueberries prior to professional golf enhancing performance.
Wow.
There's a cognitive benefit.
It's a cognitive benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
And I heard it's good for your skin.
It's good for like tons.
Okay.
Like
so
it's one of those ubiquitous ones where like, great.
A cup of blueberries.
You could say this for many, if not all fruits. But yeah, blueberries are fantastic. I'm always going to lean immediately, and I hate to say this, but leaning to broccolis and things like that, right? Because you're talking now big loads of fiber, which have a ton of benefit in a number of areas, and you're getting tons of dark green, right? Which means magnesium is going to be there, chlorophyll is going to be there, like tons of other nutrients that are there, highly well absorbed. Cruciferous, right? It's all things in that category, right? So something that is
that spinach, Brussels sprouts?
You can go
watercress.
Spinach, Brussels, all that stuff. All right. Kale is the it's the superfood one,
Kiss
right?
my ass with kale. I hate it. But anyway,
fine.
Broccoli.
Broccoli. Yeah. Okay. Like it's all fine. Something in that like dark, rich color, big volume, low calorie, high fiber game, right? Something from a starch family is great. Like everyone talks about sweet potatoes. That's great. Rice, fine. Like I don't care. Like anything in that neighborhood is absolutely fair game. So I'll pick rice.
You pick rice over sweet potato.
I'm just like, if you made me pick one.
I mean, but sweet potato is more nutritious than rice.
I wouldn't call it more nutritious.
Really?
I'd say
a garnet?
It's a wider nutrient profile.
Yeah.
But rice is so easily digested. Think about it this way. If you compare people from, say, a Scandinavian heritage, ethnic heritage, and a Southeast Asian one, these answers will be different. Right, like if you grew up for the last thousands of years
eating wheat and drinking milk, you're going to be okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
Those people tend to do really like you could.
They do.
Some people would call meat or like milk and cheese a superfood.
That's right, because it is for them.
Like, you know what's crazy to me? If I feel hungover or feel bad at all, nothing makes me feel better in this world than milk.
Wow.
Nothing.
Wow.
It is actually like
what's your nationality?
I'm a mutt for the most part, but it is mostly like English, French, sort of mix.
All right,
around
so
there.
milk.
Yeah, I feel tremendous on milk. Yeah,
milk
is super anabolic.
Do you care if it's ultra pasteurized?
I don't care at all. I grew up in the country, so like you ain't gonna scare me with any amount of.
So raw milk is fine.
I don't care.
What is the deal with ultra pasteurized milk? They say it's not real milk. It's not good for you. But no. That's a whole nother thing.
It's a whole nother thing. Is the way we'll put it.
But do you stay away from ultra pasteurized?
I don't drink milk generally.
Okay, yeah.
So like.
All right. Okay. So.
What is I'll say here on this. If you look at the data, hydration data, nothing outperforms milk as a hydrator.
What?
It's super effective because it has it's the perfect components of it. Because of the carbohydrate and because of the electrolytes in it, it's dope.
I'm going to get some raw
it's just milk. Super. How are you going to drink? If you imagine being in the desert and being like, I'm so dehydrated, give me milk.
Yeah, well, I drink that's why the Bedouin have their goats.
So, yeah,
and I was in Jordan and I talked to the guy. He goes, I live off my goats. They just drink that.
Totally.
Camel milk? They'll drink camel milk.
Camel milk all day, right?
Yeah. So, all right.
So,
okay. So we got, keep going. So we got some kind of a starch. You say white rice, blueberries,
here's how
broccoli.
I'll just tell you kind of how I eat every day, and we'll knock that answer out while we're doing this, because that's basically what I'm doing, right? So oftentimes in the morning, I will eat eggs. And some kind of eggs, it could be certainly a superfood. Tons of nutrient, very high digestibility, fairly low calories, really high quality protein. It's a complete protein, high quality fats in there, and it's highly versatile. So you can do lots of different things with it. Fairly cheap and sort of easy to get. Don't fry me, because eggs are triple as expensive in the last couple of years, but you get the point. Okay. Then we traditionally try to have some sort of vegetable in there. So whether we're doing like an omelet and you're putting in onions, peppers, blah, 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 right? Also trying to get fungi in there, mushrooms as much as we can. Something like that's going to go in there. That might be it. I might, if I'm lucky and I can get the wife to throw in some sort of meat product, we're going to add that too. Traditionally, it's going to be venison, like either something I've harvested myself, or I got a freezer full of Maui Nui venison right now, which is, I'm actually going to Maui in
How is that? That venison's good, dude.
God.
They get that, they breed it on a farm?
No, it's wild.
It is?
It's all wild.
I got to go to, how do I get that? I was in touch with them.
I'll connect you over there.
Please touch, because I got to get some of that meat. And I want to talk about
I'll send you a box.
Oh, dude, I need that Maui. It's so good. That venison's so good.
It's insane.
Damn, it's wild. I got to get that.
It's all wild, man. That's the thing.
I got to get that.
So you know what's actually cool is I'm going out there important. And I get to actually do the hunting.
It's so cool.
So they're all wild hunted and they're all harvest, and like I'm so pumped about that.
All right, I'm gonna take you on I'm gonna take you on a hunting trip eventually that you're gonna freak out about.
Dude, I like, it's like my single biggest passion. I spend more time. I'm going for bear here a few weeks. Actually.
I didn't know this about you.
Like that's why I spend most of my free time on.
Okay.
Like this is my biggest passion.
We're gonna rock and roll
for the most part. So my freezer is always full of mule deer and elk for the most part that I brought in, or that stuff in. So I will make my own, ground my own sausage, make my own like things like that. So there's
a red meat there,
It's a red meat there, but like it doesn't always happen, honestly, because of time, like extra time to cook there. And then there's, depending on how I want to play with calories, there may or may not be a starch in there. But then there's always going to be fruit. And so we'll typically use a combination of berries. Blueberries will be part of that, but blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, cantaloupe, watermelons, hydrating waters, pineapples, things like that, as much as I can. So that's a typical breakfast, of course, with loads of hot sauce. So that is in there. I actually feel way best personally when I eat more frequently. This is also something I've changed my position on. You don't need to do that. I used to think you had to, like 6 meals a day was better, but like the evidence is very clear it's not.
Right.
2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, 5, like personal preference. Yeah. I've tinkered with a lot of it. I feel honestly good with very small meals, like really small meals and eating frequently. I feel tremendous on that. So I'm going to eat a couple of hours later. Right now, pretty much every day I'm eating some sort of venison again at that point.
Is there a fermented food in there?
No, I don't really see, the only fermented food that actually has any real data behind it is like yogurt. Yogurt seems to be pretty impressive data-wise, but I got no hate. But I don't like go out of my way. I think sauerkraut sucks. I don't eat it. Like
kefir.
I mean, I'm not. I don't hate kefir, but like whatever. Like, that said, I eat yogurt most days. Not for that reason. It's just delicious, and I can go very high like protein.
I love it. Yeah.
I'm gonna put a small amount of mixed nuts in there with more berries. That's typically like my afternoon pre-training snack. Lunch is going to be a combination. Lunch and dinner are basically the same thing. So what we do is we make dinner and then we double the recipe and we have the same thing for lunch the day after, right? Because I got a wife and 2 kids, and so it's just like not going to happen, right? So our dinners are for me like a pretty reasonable size of meat, and this is a combination of any of the meats I talked about, occasionally chicken and stuff like that. So generally like fairly lean meats, but also lots of fish and things like that. So like a pretty standard general thing there. The half of our plate or more is going to be combinations of vegetables. So you're going to add in asparagus and like all the other stuff in there. About a quarter of it or so is going to be the starch component. So this could be rice and potatoes and bread or like anything. Like I love sourdough bread. Sourdough's like
It's awesome.
the jam.
I've taken to making my own. That's a lie, but I am no, it's a lie. I'm a liar, but I just bought yeast and I'm going to do that.
You know what I appreciate the fact is like, yeah, that detail had to be there for you to feel accurate.
Because that's
You're
what I call a white
scientist.
lie, but I don't believe in that anymore. Like it's like I am going to be making sourdough bread probably today, but I've never done it. So to say that I make my own sourdough is disingenuous. But I have in my mind, I have. So I've taken a cooking.
In the scientific field, we call that a correction.
So I can eat sourdough. Bread is not bad for you.
Oh.
All right, we got to wrap this up. This has been awesome.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot.